Welcome, beloved chosen souls. You are not here by accident. You are part of a rare and rising group, the ones who cannot be fooled, the ones who refuse to sleepwalk through a world of illusions. Before we begin, I want to take a moment to thank every single one of you who has supported this journey through Super Thanks. Your generosity is seen, appreciated, and it fuels this sacred mission of awakening more souls. Whether you have donated or simply walked this road alongside us, know this: you are deeply valued. Your presence alone carries weight in this movement of truth. Now, let's expose the deeper reality they don't want you to see. The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist. But the second greatest trick was far more personal. It was society convincing you that you are the problem, that your clarity is delusion, that your vision is madness, that your strength is threat. They call you crazy, a troublemaker, even a psycho. Not because you are broken, but because you are awake. You see too much, know too much, and refuse to play dumb to preserve their comfort. And that terrifies them. Here's the brutal truth they hope you never realize. 80% of people will always choose a comforting lie over an uncomfortable truth. They would rather dream sweet illusions than awaken to painful realities. And when you, chosen one, walk into their world carrying the light of discernment, you become the alarm clock they never asked for. Nobody enjoys being yanked out of a dream, especially a dream that protects them from facing themselves. That's why your existence is met with hostility. That's why they work so hard to silence you, to label you, to exile you. You are not the problem. You are the disruption. You are the mirror they cannot bear to look into. You don't cause their discomfort, you reveal it. While they labor tirelessly to keep up appearances, you stand calmly in the truth. And that contrast exposes the cracks they try so desperately to hide. They call you unstable, but the truth is, they are afraid of the stability you represent because it shows them how unstable their own foundations truly are. Get ready, because what we are about to break down is not for the faint of heart. This is the rawest, realest truth about why the chosen ones, people like you, are always misunderstood, feared, and attacked. And by the time we're done, you will walk away unshaken, unapologetic, and more certain of your calling than ever before. If you can already feel it, if you know deep in your spirit that this message is for you, drop a 777 in the comments right now. That number is not random. It is a divine signal that you are aligned, that you are awake, and that heaven itself recognizes your journey. Stay sharp, stay sovereign, stay real, and let's dive into the fire together. God's chosen ones. People now see them as psychos, targeting you. They can't hide their lies anymore. Number 1, you're not just a threat. You're a mirror that shatters illusions. Beloved chosen one, have you ever wondered why your mere presence seems to unsettle people even before you speak a word? Why rooms shift, conversations grow strained, and masks begin to crack the moment you arrive? It's because you are not just another person passing through. You are a mirror that reflects truth, and not the flattering kind that soothes egos. You carry a clarity that pierces through the carefully crafted illusions most people live inside. Illusions built from layers of denial, societal approval, and selective memory. While they spend their lives constructing fragile worlds of everything is fine narratives, you embody a reality that threatens to topple those delicate structures. Most people don't survive by facing truth. They survive by burying it. They convince themselves that their jobs are fulfilling, their friendships are genuine, and their relationships are built on love rather than convenience or fear. But when you walk into their world, something trembles inside them. You don't even need to challenge them outright. Your unfiltered, unshaken, untamed spirit alone is enough to make them question everything they've propped up. Does it surprise you that Jesus himself caused similar reactions? When he confronted the Pharisees in Matthew 23, he didn't attack with weapons. His truth alone stripped them of their facades, revealing their hypocrisy so clearly they had no choice but to plot his death. Chosen one, you are walking in that same anointing. You do not bend reality to soothe others. You do not play the games of pretending all is well when it is not. And just like Martin Luther King Jr., whose unwavering voice shattered the illusion of racial equality in a segregated America, your authenticity challenges the very foundation of the worlds others have built. It's no wonder they label you as crazy, too much, arrogant, or difficult. These accusations are not true reflections of who you are. They are defensive reflexes meant to protect their illusions from collapsing. Remember how David, the young shepherd boy, was mocked when he stood before Goliath, 1 Samuel 17. It wasn't his strength that terrified the giant. It was the truth David carried, that God's power was greater than any sword or shield. Like David, you stand unarmored but mighty, and that frightens those who have built their lives around appearances. In their desperation, they may try to label you as unstable or too intense, hoping to push you back into the shadows where truth can no longer disturb them. But know this, Noah faced the same ridicule while building the ark, Genesis 6-9. They laughed until the rain fell. Ask yourself now, dear chosen one, how many times have you been called a threat simply for standing in truth? How often have you been blamed not for what you did, but for what your presence exposed? The world labeled Joan of Arc a heretic because her conviction shook the illusion of political and religious leaders. Yet it was she who heard heaven more clearly than the kings. You are not here to maintain illusions. You are here to reveal what must be seen. And though they fear you, though they attack you, do not retreat. Their resistance is not a mark of your failure. It is the seal of your anointing. Number 2. The lies were never for you. They were for themselves. Dear chosen one, how many times have you felt the sting of betrayal and wondered, why would they lie to me? What did I do to deserve this? It's natural to personalize deception, to see it as a weapon aimed at your heart. But I urge you to look deeper. Their lies were never truly about you. Their falsehoods were stitched together, not to destroy you, but to protect the fragile images they constructed for themselves. You simply became the unfortunate witness, standing too close to the facade when it began to crack. When people lie, it is rarely a grand plot to deceive you. It is often an act of self-preservation. They lie because facing the truth would require confronting the very parts of themselves they've spent years, sometimes decades, trying to escape. Think of Peter, the beloved disciple of Jesus, who swore loyalty and then denied him 3 times out of fear. Luke 22:54-62. Peter's lies were not born of hatred. They were born of terror, of the unbearable confrontation with his own cowardice. Likewise, the lies you have encountered were not truly aimed at your heart, but at shielding theirs. You, chosen one, possess a piercing gaze that sees beyond words, that hears the silence behind empty boasts, that discerns the tremor beneath their stage confidence. Your clarity threatens the fragile webs they spin to hold their worlds together. When Malcolm X stood unapologetically in truth, exposing the hypocrisy of systems both secular and sacred, those systems didn't engage him in honest dialogue. They sought to silence him. Why? Because his very presence endangered the comfort of their carefully protected lies. A single exposed lie, no matter how small, threatens the entire tapestry. That is why, when confronted, many double down instead of confessing. It's not about proving you wrong. It's about clinging desperately to the illusion that keeps them from collapse. They will gaslight you, turn others against you, twist narratives into absurd shapes, not because they hate you, but because they are terrified of admitting that everything they've built might be a lie. Think of Joseph, whose brothers sold him into slavery because his dreams illuminated their own fears and failures. Genesis 37. Joseph didn't betray them. His light simply revealed their darkness. You are like a flame illuminating the cracks in the walls they've painted over for years. They pretend to be happy when they are drowning in loneliness. They posture as strong when they are crumbling with fear. And your unwavering presence forces them to glimpse the truth they cannot bear to face. Remember Princess Diana, who shattered the illusion of royal perfection simply by telling her truth. The world adored her honesty, but those within the palace walls found it unbearable because it exposed what they wished to hide. Ask yourself now, how many relationships turned cold, not because you changed, but because you saw too much? How many people fought to silence you, not because you lied, but because you refused to participate in their lies? Elijah stood alone against hundreds of false prophets on Mount Carmel, 1 Kings 18. He didn't win them over with clever arguments. He stood in truth, and God answered him with fire. You are called to that same unshakable witness. So do not weep over those who weaponize their lies against you. Their warfare is not a rejection of your spirit. It is a confirmation of your assignment. Stay the course, chosen one. Your ability to see through the fog is not a curse. It is a crown. Number 3, the more they hate, the more they obsess. Beloved chosen. 1. Have you ever asked yourself why those who claim to hate you seem to know the most about your life? Why those who say they want nothing to do with you still monitor your every move from the shadows? It's because hate, real hate, is never quiet. It's loud, obsessive, and, in the strangest way, almost devoted. The truth they don't want to admit, not even to themselves, is that hatred and fascination are merely two sides of the same coin. You might wonder, why would someone waste their energy on me if they truly despise me? The answer is simple. They are drawn to what they cannot understand and what they secretly wish they had. You are unapologetically real, raw, and untamed. They, on the other hand, have spent their lives twisting themselves into shapes acceptable to family, friends, society, anyone but themselves. And now, faced with your authenticity, they find themselves both repulsed and magnetized. Look at King Saul in 1 Samuel 18. He hated David with an intense fury, but could not take his eyes off him. David's authenticity, courage, and favor with God gnawed at Saul's soul. Similarly, your haters cannot simply walk away. They study you. They twist your words. They watch your life unfold, secretly hoping to catch you in a mistake, not because your fall would liberate them, but because it would soothe the deep discomfort you awaken within them. Even in modern times, consider how Oprah Winfrey, after rising from poverty and adversity, became a target of both adoration and hatred. Those who envied her authenticity and success often masked their obsession with public criticism, yet they never looked away. Just like the Pharisees could not stop monitoring Jesus, even as they plotted against him, your enemies cannot resist the gravitational pull you exert. Have you ever noticed how those who proclaim to be indifferent to you know alarming amounts of details about your life? That is no accident. Genuine indifference leads to silence, not surveillance. Their obsession is a confession, not of love, but of a deep, gnawing insecurity. You represent freedom, freedom they were too afraid to choose. Think also of Harriet Tubman, who led slaves to freedom without apology or fear. The plantation owners hated her, labeled her a criminal, even placed bounties on her head. Yet secretly, they were haunted by her courage because it revealed their own cowardice. In the same way, your very existence confronts the mental prisons others have chosen to inhabit. How often have those who despise you the most also been the ones who shadow you the closest? How many times have you felt their eyes following your every step, waiting for a fall that never comes? Their hatred is not about your flaws, it is about your light. It reminds them of everything they surrendered long ago. Hate and admiration are intimately intertwined. Those who truly have no feelings toward you would not waste a second of their energy watching, speaking, or thinking about you. But those who are obsessed, even if they call it hatred, are confessing something far deeper, an inability to look away from the truth you embody. So walk proudly, chosen one. Their fixation is not your shame, it is your crown. Number 4. The psycho label is a psychological defense mechanism. Chosen one, in a world built on fragile illusions, truth is seen not as a gift, but as a threat. When you dare to speak the truth, unvarnished, uncompromising, the weak do not debate you with logic. They attack you with labels. How many times have you noticed that the moment you exposed a lie, the conversation didn't evolve? It ended with you being called crazy, paranoid, or unhinged. It's not because you were wrong. It's because you were too right for their comfort. People have been conditioned to fear certain words. Society whispers that once someone is branded crazy, everything they say can be dismissed, no matter how piercing or accurate their insights are. It's not a debate tactic. It's a shutdown strategy. When they cannot argue against the truth you bring, they attack the credibility of the messenger. It is, at its core, psychological warfare, and sadly, it works on the undiscerning. Consider how the prophet Jeremiah was treated in ancient Israel. In Jeremiah 20, he was mocked, beaten, and imprisoned simply for speaking the words God placed in his mouth. He wasn't punished because he was wrong, but because he made people confront truths they would rather bury. You, dear chosen one, are walking the same lonely, sacred road. It is no different today. When Galileo Galilei proclaimed that the earth revolved around the sun, he was not celebrated, but condemned as a madman. His truth destabilized the comfortable falsehoods of his time. And so, society chose the easier path. Discredit the man to preserve the myth. Similarly, when you expose hidden realities, people do not argue with facts. They argue with your character because changing their minds would require changing their lives. Have you ever asked yourself, why are they so desperate to make me seem unstable? Why not simply prove me wrong? The answer is chillingly simple. They cannot. So instead, they must make others and themselves believe that you are the problem. Because if they admit you're right, they must confront the uncomfortable reality that they have been living a lie. Remember when the Apostle Paul was accused of being out of his mind while testifying before Festus in Acts 26. Paul replied with calm dignity, refusing to bow to the insult. You must do the same. Recognize that being labeled crazy for telling the truth is a badge of honor, not a sign of failure. Even in recent history, Nelson Mandela was labeled a radical, a dangerous extremist, and even a terrorist, simply because he dared to speak and act against the injustice of apartheid. Those who live in darkness must brand light as dangerous, for if they did not, they would have to admit that darkness itself is wrong. You must understand, chosen one, every time someone hurls the psycho label at you, it is not an insult. It is an unintentional confession. It reveals their own fear, their own inability to cope with the reality you expose. It is easier for them to mock you than to dismantle the comfortable delusions they have built their lives upon. So let them whisper, let them jeer, let them shout labels across the halls of the ignorant. Their accusations are not the sound of your defeat. They are the soundtrack of their collapse. Stand firm, speak boldly, and never apologize for the clarity you carry. For in the end, it is not the labeled who fall. It is those who clung to the lies. Number 5. They fear you because you don't fear isolation. Chosen. 1. Have you noticed how deeply society fears loneliness? How desperate most people are to remain part of a group, even at the cost of their authenticity. From a young age, they are taught that belonging is survival. They conform their opinions to match the majority. They sacrifice their dreams to fit into tiny molds crafted by strangers. They choose comfort over conviction, applause over authenticity. Yet you stand apart. You are the rare soul who would rather walk alone in truth than march with the masses in deception. And that, more than anything, is why they fear you. Most people don't actually think for themselves. Their beliefs are borrowed from their parents, their schools, their social circles. Their dreams are inherited from media slogans and cultural expectations. They are, in essence, prisoners of collective validation. They nod and smile, agreeing with lies they don't believe, just to avoid isolation. They stay trapped in dead marriages, toxic friendships, and soul-crushing careers. Not because they are happy, but because they fear being alone more than they fear being miserable. Meanwhile, you walk through the wilderness without flinching, like Abraham in Genesis 12, who left everything familiar to follow the call of God into an unknown land. You have the courage to leave comfort behind when truth demands it. Can you feel how powerful that makes you? How threatening that looks to those still shackled to public opinion? Look around. How many of your enemies criticize you not because you harmed them, but because you refused to validate their empty choices? How many called you cold or arrogant simply because you didn't need their approval to breathe? Their accusations are not reflections of your flaws. They are confessions of their dependency. Your independence reminds them of the chains they've chosen. Consider Rosa Parks, who with one simple act, refusing to give up her seat, shattered an entire system of oppression. Her strength wasn't in shouting or fighting. It was in her serene, immovable refusal to play the game. You too carry that silent, devastating power. You terrify those who need crowds to feel significant because you reveal that true strength doesn't need an audience. Have you ever wondered why so many gossip about you after you withdraw from them? It's because your silence screams truths they cannot bear to face. They tell themselves you are distant or too intense, because admitting you are self-sufficient would destroy the narratives they've built about needing constant connection to survive. Remember Elijah, the prophet, who stood alone on Mount Carmel, 1 Kings 18, facing hundreds of false prophets. His isolation was not a weakness, it was the platform God used to pour fire from heaven. In the same way, your willingness to stand alone makes you a vessel for revelations others are too afraid to receive. Think also of Nikola Tesla, the brilliant mind who was shunned by society because he refused to conform to corporate greed or conventional science. His isolation birthed innovations that changed the world, long after his name was smeared and forgotten by his contemporaries. Like Tesla, your distance today is the seed of tomorrow's transformation. Ask yourself now, chosen one, would you rather be lonely in truth or celebrated in falsehood? You already know the answer. You were not made for the crowd. You were made for the calling. And though they may never forgive you for showing them how fragile they are, your strength will endure long after their approval fades. Number 6. You don't play their games, you rewrite the rules. Chosen one, in a world obsessed with conformity and predictability, you are a wild card, a holy anomaly. From the time you entered this life, you have felt it, the subtle pressure to fit in, to walk the same paths, to think the same thoughts as everyone else. Society rewards predictability because predictable people are easy to control. But you, beloved soul, were never meant to be predictable. You were meant to rewrite the rules altogether. Most people are programmed like clockwork. Push them and they react on cue. Offend them and they lash out as expected. Reward them and they obey without question. But when they try to provoke you, when they push your buttons hoping for outrage or fear, they are met with something they don't know how to process. Your stillness, your strategy, your refusal to play the game. Look at how Jesus handled his accusers. In Luke 20, when the religious leaders tried to trap him with their questions, he answered with questions of his own, dismantling their traps with divine wisdom. He refused to react predictably, and that made him unstoppable. You carry the same disruptive energy. Think of Albert Einstein, who challenged the rigid scientific norms of his time, not by fighting within the accepted systems, but by offering entirely new frameworks that redefined the universe itself. He didn't argue harder within the rules, he created new ones. And today, you too are building a reality where their games, their manipulations, their expectations hold no power over you. Have you ever asked yourself, why do they become so angry when I simply refuse to react? It's because reaction is the currency of control. When you don't pay, they lose their grip, your ability to stay calm under provocation, to move unpredictably when they think they have you figured out, terrifies them. When Nehemiah rebuilt the walls of Jerusalem, Nehemiah 6, his enemies tried every tactic to stop him. Threats, lies, manipulation. But Nehemiah refused to be drawn into their games. He stayed focused, rewriting the reality around him by finishing the work God gave him. You are called to the same resilience. In modern times, Steve Jobs stands as another testament to this spirit. He didn't ask permission from the gatekeepers of technology. He didn't beg for a seat at anyone else's table. He invented a new table, and the world had no choice but to adjust. You are not here to tweak their systems. You are here to overthrow them by simply refusing to be governed by their limitations. You don't argue for a place at their corrupted tables. You build new kingdoms where truth reigns and creativity flows freely. Ask yourself now, what would happen if I fully stopped seeking their approval? You already know. You would become even more dangerous to the structures of control around you, and even more unstoppable in your divine assignment. You are a divine disruptor, a rule breaker in the best and holiest sense. Do not mourn the doors that close when you refuse to compromise. Rejoice. Every door that shuts in your face clears the way for you to carve paths no one has dared to walk before. You are not a pawn in their game, chosen one. You are the architect of a new realm they cannot yet comprehend. Number 7, you're a living paradox, both respected and resented. Beloved chosen one, have you ever sensed the confusion in people's eyes when they look at you? How they seem torn between admiration and resentment, unable to decide whether to celebrate you or condemn you. That is because you are a living paradox in a world obsessed with categorization. You don't fit neatly into their boxes, and for that, they are both drawn to you and threatened by you. Your strength commands their respect, but your refusal to bow demands their hostility. Most people live dual lives, a polished performance for the world and a hidden, fractured self they dare not expose. They crave authenticity, yet when they see it embodied in you, it unsettles them. Why? Because your life silently condemns the compromises they make daily. They admire your boldness, but they envy the freedom it represents. freedom they traded for acceptance long ago, just like King Herod admired John the Baptist's holiness, but ultimately sentenced him to death. Mark 6:20-27. They vacillate between fascination and betrayal when dealing with you. Have you ever noticed how they copy your words, your ideas, even your style, only to turn around and mock you behind your back? It's because deep inside, they want what you have, the courage to be real, but they resent you for showing them what they lack. They celebrate boldness when it's convenient, but when your boldness exposes their masks, they call it arrogance. They praise resilience in theory, but when you embody it, they label you too much or difficult. Think of Frida Kahlo, whose art and life shattered traditional norms. She was both revered and criticized, often by the same people. Society didn't know whether to worship her for her raw honesty or crucify her for refusing to conform. You too carry that same disruptive authenticity that unsettles the comfortable and inspires the brave. Ask yourself, how many times have you felt others praising a quality in someone else that they condemned in you? Their inconsistency is not a reflection of your flaws, but of their internal war. They want to celebrate the truth, but fear the cost of living it. Even in the Bible, Jesus was celebrated by crowds one day and crucified by them the next. Matthew 21:9, Matthew 27:22. Humanity's love for authenticity is fleeting when authenticity demands personal transformation. Or consider Muhammad Ali, who was both idolized and vilified for speaking truth without apology. His confidence was called arrogance until history redeemed it as heroism. You, chosen one, are standing on that same timeless battleground, the place where the real are hated for exposing the fake. Their unpredictability toward you will never fully vanish. One moment, they will seek your advice, your strength, your clarity. The next, they will seek to cut you down to make themselves feel safe again. But remember, it is better to be misunderstood for being real than embraced for being fake. Authenticity is costly, but conformity costs far more, your soul. Number 8. You make the puppeteers nervous. Chosen one, there is a secret few dare to speak aloud. The world is governed not by strength or freedom, but by control. Not the obvious chains of oppression, but invisible chains, chains made of fear, distraction, and manufactured consent. From the day you were born, subtle forces work to script your life, what you should believe, what you should fear, who you should become. But unlike most, you saw through the illusion. You refused the leash. And that refusal makes you a danger to the architects of this deceptive world. You are not merely resisting manipulation, you are exposing it. You notice when narratives don't align with reality. You discern when freedom is dangled like a carrot, while true choice is withheld. You see how entertainment, politics, and even religion are often used not to liberate, but to sedate. Just like Daniel in the courts of Babylon, Daniel 1, you stand uncorrupted, refusing to feast on the poison that numbs the minds of the masses. Have you ever asked yourself, why does society invest so much energy in discrediting a handful of voices? Why label truth-tellers as crazy, dangerous, or extreme? It's because the system doesn't need to defeat you. It just needs to isolate you. If they can convince the world not to listen, your revelations never take root. When Jeremiah warned Israel of impending doom, he wasn't ignored because he lacked evidence. He was thrown into a cistern, Jeremiah 38, because his truth threatened the structures built on lies. In our times, Edward Snowden experienced the same fate. Exposing mass surveillance made him not a hero in the eyes of the powerful, but a threat to be exiled and silenced. Like him, your courage to see and speak makes you a problem to those who thrive on deception. And it's not just the elite who fight you. It's often ordinary people unknowingly defending the very system that enslaves them. Why? Because waking up means losing the comfort of ignorance. It's easier to mock you than to admit they've been played. It's easier to hate the messenger than to confront the prison they've accepted as home. Consider Galileo, again condemned for daring to suggest that Earth was not the center of the universe. His heresy was simply seeing what others refused to see, and the system crushed him to protect the illusion. Have you noticed how those most committed to mocking you are often the ones most tightly chained? How they shout the loudest not because you are wrong, but because your existence forces them to doubt the lies they've built their lives upon. This is no accident. It is psychological warfare at its highest level. When Pontius Pilate questioned Jesus, John 18:37-38, he cynically asked, "What is truth?" Not because he didn't know, but because acknowledging truth would require action he was unwilling to take. Today, the world repeats Pilate's question, mocking truth not because it is absent, but because it is unbearable. You, chosen one, are a threat not because you seek to tear down the world, but because you reveal the cracks already present. And when truth becomes dangerous, lies indeed become law. But fear not. Though they may silence your voice temporarily, they can never unsee what you have shown them. Truth once revealed cannot be forgotten, and you, brave soul, are the divine disturbance they cannot control. Number 9. The attacks will always be personal because they have nothing else. Chosen one, have you noticed that when you stand firm in truth, the opposition rarely comes at you with logic? Instead of debating ideas, they attack you, your character, your past, your personality. It's not about disproving what you say, it's about discrediting who you are, because deep down, they know something chilling. If they had a real counter-argument, they would never need to resort to gossip, slander, or social exclusion. But they don't. So they turn the battlefield from ideas to personal attacks. Look at history. When the prophet Elijah called out the false prophets of Baal on Mount Carmel, 1 Kings 18, they couldn't refute the truth he carried. So they resorted to ridicule, mockery, and desperate theatrics. Elijah didn't flinch, and neither must you. The very fact that they must dig into your past, twist your words, or label you as arrogant or unstable is proof they have already lost the intellectual battle. Their weapons are not truth, but fear and distraction. Consider Malala Yousafzai, who simply advocated for the education of girls. Rather than debate the merits of her cause, her enemies attempted to assassinate her character and her life. Why? Because her message was too powerful to confront directly. The same principle applies to you, dear chosen one. Your voice carries weight, and that terrifies those whose lives are built on shaky foundations. Have you ever asked yourself, why are they more focused on attacking me than addressing what I am saying? It's because when people can't defeat your truth, they aim to taint your image. They call your confidence narcissism, your perseverance aggression, your exposure of hypocrisy toxicity. But all of it is a smokescreen. It's never about the reality of who you are. It's about manipulating the perception of you so that others will dismiss your message without thinking. When Jesus was brought before Pilate, Luke 23, his accusers didn't present a coherent case. They hurled vague accusations, hoping the confusion alone would condemn him. But Pilate, even amidst the pressure, said, "I find no fault in this man." Your haters hope that by creating enough noise around your name, the truth you carry will be drowned out. Think also of Socrates, who was sentenced to death not because he was proven wrong, but because he challenged the very foundations of Athenian society. His ideas were too dangerous to debate fairly, so he was labeled a corrupter and silenced. Remember this, chosen one. When their only strategy is to assassinate your character, they reveal their own weakness, not your flaws. A person who needs to manipulate perception to win has already confessed defeat. And though they may succeed in making others doubt for a season, the truth planted in hearts cannot be uprooted by slander. So, ask yourself, if my words were meaningless, would they fight so hard to discredit me? You already know the answer. Number 10. They are exhausted trying to keep up with their own lies. Chosen one. Have you ever noticed the weariness behind the bright smiles, the exhaustion lurking in the voices of those who seem to have it all together? It's because maintaining a lie is exhausting. Pretending to be someone they're not, crafting a life of appearances instead of truth, constantly adjusting their mask to suit every situation. It drains their spirit more than any external burden could. And you, living in unapologetic authenticity, are a walking contradiction to their struggle. The truth is, they are tired of pretending, tired of curating every conversation, every relationship, every image to project something that isn't real, like the priests in Jesus' time who whitewashed tombs on the outside while hiding decay within. Matthew 23:27. They present beautiful facades while rotting with self-doubt inside. Your presence is not just unsettling, it's a mirror they cannot escape. Think of Katherine Johnson, the brilliant mathematician whose raw intelligence could not be hidden, even by the racial and gender biases of her time. Her authenticity exposed the cracks in a system built on lies of superiority. In much the same way, your existence forces people to face what they've spent years trying to suppress. Have you ever felt the subtle shift in energy when you enter a room? It's because you, standing confidently in who you are, highlight everything they are not. They see you and are reminded of the freedom they forfeited, the risks they didn't take, the authenticity they buried under layers of approval-seeking behaviors. Your ease of being magnifies their internal struggle. Every effortless step you take exposes the heavy chains they drag behind them. And rather than admit the truth and pursue their own liberation, many lash out. They mock, belittle, and dismiss you, not because they think you are wrong, but because they cannot bear the pain of realizing they have betrayed themselves. Reflect on Jonah, who ran from God's calling, Jonah 1. His exhaustion didn't come from the journey, it came from fighting the truth inside him. Likewise, many of those who attack you are not energized by malice, but worn down by their own internal war. In modern times, Robin Williams, a man who made millions laugh, battled intense inner turmoil hidden behind smiles. His tragic story reminds us that appearances can be profoundly deceiving. Many of those who seem happiest are carrying invisible burdens, and your authenticity reveals that no mask, however skillfully worn, can heal the soul. Ask yourself now, what would happen if they stopped pretending for even one moment? The thought terrifies them, because beneath the surface many realize they don't love their jobs, their relationships, or the personas they've crafted. They realize they've been running on empty, performing for acceptance they don't even believe in anymore. And so, rather than face that unbearable emptiness, they make you the villain. It's easier to label you intense than to admit they are exhausted. Easier to mock your freedom than to confront their chains. But deep down, they envy you. They envy your peace. They envy your courage. They envy your ability to live without needing the applause of the blind. No matter how fiercely they attack you, the truth remains. You are free, and they are not. Number 11. They keep you close just to study you. Chosen one, have you ever wondered why certain people, despite their dismissive words and mocking attitudes, never truly walk away from you? Why they seem to orbit your life, pretending indifference while their actions betray a deep and relentless fascination? They don't truly like you, at least that's what they tell themselves. Yet somehow they cannot look away. They roll their eyes at your words, scoff at your boldness, and whisper behind your back. But if you watch closely, you'll notice something curious. They mimic you more than they mock you. Why does this happen? Why do people who criticize you so fiercely seem to end up mirroring your ideas, your decisions, even your growth? The answer is simple but profound. Deep down, they recognize that you are ahead. You are leading where they are still lost. You are forging paths where they are still stumbling along well-trodden roads. And though their pride won't allow them to openly honor you, their actions betray their silent admiration. Consider Jesus and the Pharisees. They despised him, publicly questioning his teachings and challenging his authority. Matthew 22:15-46. Yet they followed him, listened to him, studied his words. Not because they wanted to learn, but because they were compelled by the force of authenticity that they lacked. In the same way, your authenticity and unpredictability make you a living blueprint in a world addicted to conformity. Ask yourself, how many times have the very people who belittled your ideas turned around and adopted them later as their own? You will see the pattern if you dare to look. They scoff first, imitate later. They criticize loudly, then quietly adjust their lives to the new standards you set. Look at Maya Angelou, who lived her truth boldly and unapologetically. Many rejected her voice in her time, yet later generations studied her every word, adopted her philosophies, and tried to weave her strength into their own narratives. Just like those around her, those around you keep you close, not out of friendship, but out of desperate hunger for something real in a world full of imitation. Most people don't think for themselves. They absorb whatever the culture feeds them, trends, opinions, lifestyles, and call it original thought. But you, chosen one, do something far more dangerous. You think independently. You move according to unseen convictions rather than external applause. That's why they must keep you near. Because in a society built on recycled ideas, an original thinker becomes a rare and precious map they cannot afford to lose. They won't acknowledge it, of course. Admitting admiration would require humbling themselves, and pride rarely allows that. Instead, they wear masks of disdain, call you weird, reckless, or irrational, all while secretly adjusting their own courses according to the compass you carry in your spirit. Remember Joseph in Genesis 41, betrayed by his brothers, forgotten by many, yet ultimately elevated to a position where even those who once despised him had no choice but to come to him for survival. They bowed before the very dreamer they had once mocked. Likewise, those who scoff at you today will one day walk paths you pioneered, even if they never give you credit. Have you noticed how their behavior changes after interacting with you? How their goals subtly shift, their language evolves, their dreams stretch in ways they never considered before? It's because, consciously or not, you set the pace. You inspire transformations they cannot trace back to you, because tracing it back would mean acknowledging the truth they refuse to speak. Consider also Elon Musk, whose daring ventures into technology and space exploration were once ridiculed. Today, industries are scrambling to catch up, all while pretending they had envisioned such futures themselves. Like Musk, your originality threatens the status quo, and the world pretends not to notice, even as it scrambles to follow. They keep you close not because they value your friendship, but because they need a source of new perspectives, fresh strategies, untapped courage. They will never say it out loud. They will dress their fascination as disdain. But if you pay attention, if you watch the shifts that ripple through their lives after you cross their path, you will see the truth written in their evolution. Ask yourself now, chosen one, Am I chasing their approval, or are they chasing my originality without even realizing it? The answer will set you even freer. So walk boldly, speak freely, move without permission. Their mouths may deny you, but their lives will always bear witness to the power you carry. Number 12, your silence isn't weakness, it's ammunition. Beloved chosen. 1. Have you ever noticed how your silence unsettles those who seek to provoke you? They hurl insults, fabricate rumors, spread gossip like wildfire, hoping you will react, hoping you will defend, argue, explain, or justify yourself. They cast their stones with expectation, waiting for the familiar sound of retaliation. But you, guided by wisdom not of this world, choose restraint. You stand silent, not out of fear, not out of submission, but because you understand a divine truth. You owe no explanations to the blind. Most people are governed by their emotions. Their egos tremble at the thought of being misunderstood or disrespected. They cannot endure silence because silence demands confidence. They feel the compulsive need to have the last word, to be seen as right, to win battles that in reality only expose their insecurity. Yet you, chosen one, walk a higher path. You understand what King David knew when he stood before Saul's accusations. 1 Samuel 24. Truth does not scream, it stands. Ask yourself, what am I actually gaining by explaining myself to those determined to misunderstand me? The answer is always the same. Nothing but wasted energy. Truth needs no defense. Time itself becomes your advocate. As they scramble to weave lies, contradict themselves, and exhaust their credibility, you remain planted, unmoved, while reality slowly peels away their falsehoods. Think of Nelson Mandela, who endured decades of imprisonment without renouncing his cause. He did not shout from his cell. He did not fight to be seen as right. He waited, and history vindicated him in ways his accusers could never silence. Similarly, your silence is not an absence of strength. It is the weapon they cannot defend against. As they desperately try to control the narrative, they reveal their fear. Each accusation, each rumor, each desperate plea for attention is a crack in their armor, not yours. They hope you will react because your reaction would validate their lies. But you deny them that victory. You make them wrestle with their own noise while you conserve your energy for victories that matter. Remember Jesus before his accusers. Matthew 27:12-14. When falsely accused, he answered nothing. His silence was deafening. His restraint shook the power structures more than 1,000 angry words ever could. You, too, embody that divine strategy. Have you seen how, over time, the inconsistencies in their stories emerge without you lifting a finger? How those who once believed the lies begin to question? It is because truth, though slow, always wins the race. Your silence allows reality to reveal itself without you ever compromising your dignity. Ask yourself now, is my goal to win arguments or to win battles that truly matter? When you remain silent, you are not surrendering. You are loading ammunition into the arsenal of truth that time will one day unleash. In the end, chosen one, your silence will speak louder than their 1,000 accusations, and when the dust clears, you will still be standing, untouched, unshaken, undeniably victorious. Number 13. The same people who call you crazy will one day quote you. Chosen one, it may sting now. The whispers, the eye rolls, the dismissive laughter. They call you extreme, irrational, even dangerous. They mock your vision because it stretches beyond their limited imagination. They scoff at your warnings because it challenges their comfort. They brand your convictions as madness because accepting them would demand change they are not ready to make. But mark this truth in your heart. The same ones who ridicule you today will echo your wisdom tomorrow. They will quote your words, champion your causes, adopt your perspectives, but they will not always give you credit. History is filled with such ironies. Consider Noah, who spent years building the ark under the mockery of an entire generation. Genesis 6 through 7. They laughed until the rain began to fall. His obedience to a vision unseen was madness to them, until it became their salvation too late. You're walking the same path. Your insight, though scorned now, is simply ahead of its time. Have you ever asked yourself, why do they resist so hard now, only to embrace the same truths years later? It is because human nature fears disruption. People don't reject you because you are wrong. They reject you because you are early. Think of Galileo, condemned by religious authorities for asserting that the earth revolved around the sun. Branded a heretic in his time, today he is celebrated as a father of modern science. The wisdom you carry, chosen one, will one day be common sense, but only after the world has caught up. Today they roll their eyes. Tomorrow they will quote you in conversations, sermons, speeches, and social media posts. They will recycle your revelations without a second thought. They will champion the very causes they once mocked you for daring to believe in. Have you ever noticed how the loudest mockers are often the first to pretend they always agreed with you once the tide turns? That's no accident, it's survival. They are rewriting history not because they found truth independently, but because your perseverance made it impossible to deny any longer. Look at Rosa Parks, once labeled disruptive and problematic for refusing to give up her bus seat. Today, she is hailed as a pioneer of civil rights, quoted, celebrated, immortalized. Yet few remember how fiercely she was vilified in her own time. You too, dear chosen one, carry seeds of change that those around you are not ready to water yet. Ask yourself now, am I speaking for today's applause or tomorrow's transformation? Because what you sow in faith today will become the foundations others stand on tomorrow. You won't need to say, "I told you so." You won't need to demand acknowledgement. Your vindication will be written not on their lips, but on the landscape of the future you helped to create. And deep down, they will know. They will remember how they once laughed. And in the silence that follows, your truth will echo louder than any voice that ever tried to drown it out. Number 14. You will win because they are fighting against reality itself. Chosen one, have you ever paused to realize that your greatest battle is not truly against people? It is against the illusions they desperately cling to. They think they are resisting you, opposing you, trying to bring you down. But in truth, they are fighting a much bigger, much more unstoppable force, reality itself. And history has always taught us one unshakable lesson. No one has ever won a war against what is real. You do not need to engage in petty arguments. You do not need to stoop to defend yourself against every accusation. You do not need to wrestle in the mud with those who twist facts and rewrite narratives to suit their fears. Why? Because truth stands on its own. Just as light does not need to argue with darkness to prove it exists, it simply shines. Your authenticity does not require validation to be powerful. So, why waste your strength battling those who are already losing against the inevitable? Your detractors spend their energy not building their lives, but maintaining illusions. And illusions are fragile things. Lies must constantly be fed, reinforced, repackaged. False personas demand endless applause to survive. Without the fuel of constant validation, their entire structure collapses under its own emptiness. Think of the Pharisees during Jesus' time, John 8:44. They spent their lives defending a distorted version of faith built on appearance, not substance. When confronted with the pure reality of Christ's truth, they chose to fight rather than surrender. And yet, it was their world that fell, not his. You stand in that same unstoppable current. Their slander, gossip, and resistance may feel loud, but it is hollow. Reality is on your side, and reality always wins, without shouting, without rushing, without ever needing to defend itself. Consider Mahatma Gandhi, who faced ridicule, imprisonment, and relentless opposition for daring to believe that freedom could be achieved through nonviolence. His enemies used force, lies, and propaganda to try to destroy him. Yet, he did not fight them on their terms. He stood in truth, and it was the empire that crumbled, not him. You, chosen one, are wielding the same quiet, devastating force, unwavering truth. You may wonder why your mere existence unsettles them so deeply, why your refusal to play along provokes such violent reactions. It is because when someone chooses to live inside a lie, anyone who walks in truth becomes a living rebuke, a silent witness to everything they are trying to suppress. You are not attacking them. Your presence simply highlights what they already know, but refuse to admit. Remember how Elijah stood alone against the false prophets of Baal on Mount Carmel, 1 Kings 18. It wasn't a contest of who shouted louder or who gathered more followers. It was a simple contest of reality versus illusion. Fire from heaven needed no argument to prove itself. Likewise, you need not fight their falsehoods directly. Let time, let life, let reality expose what cannot stand. Have you noticed how desperate they become, how frantic their attempts to maintain their narratives grow? They fight harder, speak louder, accuse more viciously, not because they are growing stronger, but because they are growing weaker. Every attack is a confession of their crumbling foundation. Every slander is a desperate gasp for control over a reality that is slipping through their fingers. Think also of Malcolm X, whose words were vilified, distorted, and suppressed by many in his time. Yet today, the clarity and power of his truth echo louder than the voices that tried to bury him. Your voice, too, will outlive their opposition, not because you shouted the loudest, but because you stood the firmest. Ask yourself now, am I here to win arguments, or am I here to embody a reality so undeniable that time itself becomes my advocate? The answer is woven into your very soul. You were never sent to fight temporary battles. You were sent to stand with eternity. They will label you today, misunderstand you, mock you, but over time they will see. They will watch as the very truths they resisted become self-evident. They will witness the collapse of the systems they fought so hard to preserve. And deep down, they will remember you were the one who stood still while they ran in circles. And when that day comes, when the dust clears, when the illusions lie broken around them, you will not need to say a word. You will not need to proclaim victory. Reality itself will have spoken for you. You were never the one who needed to win. They were the ones who were always destined to lose. Beloved chosen one, if these words stirred something deep inside you, if even a single line echoed the silent battles you've been fighting, know this: you are not alone. There is a reason this message found you today. In a world where illusions scream and truth often whispers, your spirit still recognized the sound of what is real. That is no small thing. That is the evidence of your awakening. If this message struck a chord within you, if it mirrored the unseen struggles you've carried, if it offered the validation your soul has longed for, I encourage you, do not let it stop with you. Share this message. Share it with the ones who have been quietly questioning, with the ones who have felt isolated for thinking differently, with those who are beginning to see through the cracks. You never know, your simple act of sharing could be the catalyst that sets another captive soul free. And if you felt the pulse of truth here, if you sensed the presence of something deeper, I invite you to subscribe to the channel. This is only the beginning. There is still more to expose, more to unveil, more power to unlock within you. We are not just passing time here. We are reclaiming it. We are tearing down the facades and awakening the ones who are ready to rise above the noise and walk in unstoppable truth. This movement is not built on hype or trends. It's built on reality, the unshakable, undeniable foundation that withstands every storm. And you, chosen one, are a vital part of that movement. If you feel led, and only if it is placed on your heart, you are welcome to support this work through Super Thanks. Every gift, no matter the size, fuels the mission of spreading truth farther and louder into the corners where it is most desperately needed. But hear me when I say this with all sincerity. Whether you donate or not, your presence here is profoundly valued. Your time, your energy, your willingness to walk this journey alongside others. That is a gift beyond measure. You are seen, you are appreciated, you are celebrated. Even without a donation, you are a vital thread in this tapestry we are weaving. A tapestry of awakening souls, of broken chains, of truth finally taking its rightful place. Every time you listen, every time you engage, every time you simply stand firm in your own truth, you are helping to build something eternal. And so, from the depths of my spirit, I speak this blessing over you now. May wisdom be your constant companion. May strength rise in you like a river that cannot be dammed. May your discernment sharpen until you see with the clarity of eagles. May you find peace that no chaos can steal, joy that no lie can corrupt, and power that no system can diminish. May your voice grow louder, your vision grow clearer, and your path grow brighter with every step you take. May you know, without a shadow of doubt, that you were created for such a time as this. You are not a mistake, you are not crazy, you are not too much. You are exactly what this moment needs, real, raw, and unstoppable. Stay sharp, stay sovereign, stay rooted in the truth that sets you free. Until we meet again, walk tall, speak boldly, and move as the force of nature you were destined to be. Because no matter how loud the noise becomes, remember this: reality, your reality, always wins in the end. And the world has not even begun to see what happens when a chosen one fully wakes up. Blessings, power, and peace to you always. I'll see you in the next one.